Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at IOM FM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and I'm so excited to be here today. In fact, today's topic is on calming the anxious mind. And I was sitting here 2 minutes ago saying, gosh, it's so peaceful. How do I talk about calming the anxious mind? It's impossible for me to imagine anxiety. And then I looked at my devices here and realized, you have 14% battery left. And I was able to induce a moment of anxiety and running around for other devices and things like that. So there we go. Life presents the lessons. And we've all had anxious moments, especially right now. We're in quarantine. If you're listening to this later, you know things that we don't, perhaps in quarantine. Like, what's life like afterwards? And it's interesting times, uncertain times. And as I was looking at the topic of staying calm, it occurred to me, as in my yoga therapy training, what we would always look at and what we do look at with clients in yoga therapy sessions is what to get rid of, right? What kind of movements to get rid of, what kind of habits to get rid of, what to get rid of, even if that's just sitting with a wallet in a back pocket all the time. That puts a little torque on the hips. Right, so things to eliminate, old habits, old movement patterns, stuff like that. And then there's the piece of what to add. What to add might be a couple of yoga practices or a breathing practice or things like that. All right, or just awareness to something. When I'm moving, add awareness so that I don't bend down and pick things up in that old way. And I was thinking about how that applies to our relationship with calming the mind, right? Our relationship to the mind and to life and what's showing up for us. And then I realized there's also a third piece, and this is still included in the yoga therapy practice, but it's not included when we're talking about the therapeutic process in terms of what to add and what to let go of. Yet I think it's right next to those and also the overarching thing. And that is changing our relationship to our mind or to our thought and ultimately to ourselves. So as we dive in today, we're going to talk about each of those, right? What to get rid of. Getting rid of the media, like incessant media chatter, which a lot of people are listening to. And if you're listening to this show, you likely aren't listening to that as much as most of the population out there, right? You're a little different. Like I'm a lot different. And then there's what to add. And what to add could be a flexible morning routine, like the one I was working with a client to put together today, where it's flexible enough that you feel like you have some leeway and some give and some variety, but also supportive enough that it nourishes your day. Right? So those could be two examples of what to get rid of and what to add. So as we go through the show today, there's going to be more about what you could let go of, and that's going to be both kind of broad and very individual. Maybe it's I need to stop talking with this one person so much. And then also that key aspect of transforming our relationship with the mind, which for me is kind of a really interesting, fun part where we get to get messy, but also come to some clarity that's going to impact every area of your life ultimately. And that's one of the things about not being calm. Have you ever noticed you don't think as clearly when you're not calm, where your head is hopping all over the place and catastrophizing and that sort of thing? That happens for me. And so before we dive in, I would love for you to, if you have questions about the show, guests you would like to see, I'm getting some fun guests lined up for the next couple of months, some amazing authors. And I was reading one of the books last night, like, whoa, my whole body lit up. And I always love to hear your ideas, right? Because that makes the show relevant to what's going on for you. This show emerged because of what someone said that was going on for them. So I thought, oh, boom, right? And it's a little similar idea to some of the shows we've done recently about being an empath and taking on everybody's stuff and how crazy that can be. Yet this show is also going to have some very different tips and a different flavor. So if you haven't caught that show, it may also be a very useful show for you. So the best place to reach me and talk about your questions and what you'd like to see, and even sign up for the classes I have coming up, one of which is called Anxiety-Free Finances. And that's a pay-as-you-wish class, which is super fun, coming up Sunday, is meetkathywilliams.com. There, we're also going to add that flexible routine kind of paper for you to zero in and create your own flexible routine that I'm going to talk about today. So I think usually the place to start is, what can you get rid of? Okay. Not for everyone, but it's sort of like, what am I doing that's intensifying the condition or the problem? And sometimes it can be a little hidden, like I'm staying up really late and I kind of miss my sleep window, which means I wake up tired and my mind is more agitated when I don't get enough sleep, right? That can be kind of an easy one to address. Like, now we all have amazing phones that are willing to tell us all sorts of things, and we can use that to our advantage. Oh, well, set that reminder for sleep. It's past 10 o'clock or whatnot. I better go to sleep so I go within that sleep window. Right? So this is, I do not love rules. I know many of you don't. Some of you even think rules are made to be broken. So I'm not giving rules. It's just sort of like, you. If you're a night owl and that works for you, awesome. But if you miss that 10 or 11 o'clock window, you're up till 2, then that's an easy fix. Okay. So as you start to look at, like, what exactly, where does my anxiety result from or get I was going to say exasperated. Exacerbated by, right? What kind of things when do I feel anxious? Oh, I feel anxious after talking with, or I feel anxious after watching. Then those are or going on Facebook or whatever. Those are places you can start and start minimizing. To great effect, like that is sometimes the place of most impact, right? Oh, don't do the thing that causes the state. Now, that can also be easier said than done, right? Like, oh, when I think about the future, or I think about the fact that I haven't had a job for 2 months and what that's going to look like and not knowing, that's when I get anxious. So this is a whole different story because suddenly it's not the outer world seeming to cause the anxiety. The outer world never causes the anxiety. It's actually always the inner world that does. But here we get to start to see that it's the inner world causing the anxiety. Let me give an example of what I just said. Like the outer world does not cause the anxiety, okay, or the frustration, or the whatever you go through. If you and I are seated at a cafe, and let's say a medium-sized dog, so it's not a tiny, tiny dog, but it's not huge, runs up to us like we're sitting outside. So it runs up to us. And you're like, oh, how cute. I love this little dog. And I'm freaked out. Right? This is an opportunity to see that, oh, it's not the situation that caused the stress. Right? We both responded in 2 very different ways. You love the dog. I'm freaked out. Similarly, in what's going on in the world right now, a lot of people are loving this inward time. And then a lot of people are anxious. And we could say yes, because they're in different financial boats, or they're in different circumstances. This can be true. And ultimately, what's causing the emotion that we're experiencing is not the outer world. It's what's going on in us. Our stories, our thinking about something. Yeah. And that's not to say we can't create things that help us, right? And minimize the things that provoke anxiety and maximize the things that provoke or evoke calm. So let's go now to, okay, well, when I'm thinking about the fact that I don't know what the future of my work is like, that's the real anxiety-provoking thing. Then we can start to look at, okay, every time I have that thought, it's a temporary thought, right? It's like I am the sky. I'm the sky, and this thought floats by, and I can get hooked into it and imagine that it's real and sort of draw more clouds to it, and then the clouds feel real, and it gets scary. I can look at that thought and say, okay, in every situation in my life that I've been fearful, I've made it through. I've gotten to this point. And that doesn't mean situations have always been easy. But I have resilience, and I'm strong. And somehow things always seem to come together. Right? And as you look back on your life, you can find evidence that that's true. When we're anxious, it's generally about some future scenario that has not taken place yet. So looking at the past for evidence of the fact that each time you've had that, you've made it through. And choose things, if you tend to like have panic attacks or something like that, choose things to look at that are minor. Oh, when I was 12, I was afraid of, calling this boy. Got through it. Oh, well, I was nervous about my first job interview. I got through it. I got the job. Whatever it is. Like, you can find evidence that most of the time, the monster you create in your head with the big scary eyes and pointy sharp teeth and, looks intimidating, it's made up. And then we act as though it's real. We run, we get nervous, we get frightened. It's made up. So we're making up the fear, the false evidence appearing real. We're making up the thing that's creating fear. Okay? Coronavirus. How many people are afraid of that? Okay. Instead of saying, you know what? I'm just going to show up and respond to life as it is, knowing that right now, in this moment, I have my breath. Right now, in this moment, I have a roof over my head, even if it's just a car. Right now, in this moment, my heart is pumping blood through miles of veins and arteries. That's pretty miraculous and cool within itself, right? Right now, right here, I'm okay. So I know we're going to go to break here in just a moment. But tapping into the okayness of the present will change a lot, right? When we come back, we're going to talk about some more of the things to let go of and some things you can really tap into to make a difference and calm the storm. Thanks so much for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, and that website where you can find me is meetkathywilliams.com.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio.
Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and I'm so glad you're here with me. I love to hear from you. So if you have questions about the show or have a guest you'd love to see on the show or have a podcast you'd love to see me on, hit me up over at meetkathywilliams.com. That's also where you can get a free Create Your Life exercise, and we're going to be adding also a flexible morning routine that you can do. It's kind of like create your own. So let's just dive in and talk about that as we're talking about ways to stay calm in this crazy world of ours. And that's kind of what this whole month of shows has really been about in various ways, living with uncertainty, living when you, with the challenge of taking on other people's emotions. Like, how can we stay calm and effective and clear within all of that? So today I was working with a client. I run these mastermind groups, and actually, if you're interested, we're going to be starting a new one, so you can email me over at meetkathywilliams.com. Super fun. And one of the women said, something I'd really like to change about my life is right now it feels very kind of all over the place. And I would love to have a morning routine. And I know for a lot of us creatives, the word routine sounds drab. It sounds limiting, like a box. And yet, there are ways you can do it that actually really feed you. And one of the simplest ways of doing it is like, okay, what are the elements I would love to have in my morning, regardless of where I am, regardless of who's with me that day, whether I have my kids that week or not, all those sort of things. And usually some of the things that come up are, I'd like a moment of quiet. And I would love to move my body and exercise, maybe connect with nature, listen to something inspirational. So like these different major headings. Maybe eat something. Not everyone does, but in the morning. But those kind of activities. And then what you do is, if you had a checkbox, that's where you would check the box. But from each of those, you would tree a line out to have several options. So let's use the example of exercise. Every morning I would love to exercise for 20 minutes. Yeah, and you can make that number higher if you wish. So what do I like? What would I love to include and have be my options that are super easy to go to? So that might be a Pilates video or a bar. It might be go running or do some yoga. Right? And so you would actually have these 3 or 4 little lines out, maybe dance to the radio, 3 or 4 little lines out as options. Now, what I would like to do, exercise. How would be one of these 4 things. It's like an adult sticker chart. Right? Oh, yeah, exercise. Pat on the back. Gold star. Yeah. A moment of quiet. How could I receive that or have that? Okay, wake up earlier. And maybe that, to have my time without my husband, or maybe even set aside, like every morning, going on the porch, having my coffee, just looking at the trees, or meditate, or listen to a guided meditation, or journal. So what would you like? Quietude. These are 4 ways I could get that. So what would I like? To connect to myself, right? Maybe that's instead of quietude. How do I connect to myself? I really connect when I go on a walk, or when I journal, or when I go within, or shower and ask myself these questions. Okay? So major line would be connect to myself, and then how I'd get it would be these 4 little lines coming off that. All right. And super simple, but at the same time, like, provides a framework for us to get our needs met. And you can add to it. Like, what is missing as a foundation for my day? Oh, well, I'd really like to have some gratitude time. Okay, how might I do that? One way would be journal. Maybe even write some notes of gratitude to a friend. Like every morning, send a gratitude note. Or just embody the energy of gratitude. Just take that in and feel it and have appreciation for all that I am experiencing and having. So making a framework such that there's something to nurture you, ground you, if that's the word you like to use, and stabilize. I mentioned Ayurveda in one of the recent shows. I think that was the show for when you take on other people's stuff. And, there in Ayurveda, that's the science of the holistic medical science of India. The Vata is airy and ungrounded almost. And so that's the kind that would mostly get anxious kind of person. There are considered 3 types, and this doesn't only apply to people. It applies to, like, what's a carrot and what's a climate and what's a beverage. All right, so kapha is heavy and grounding. Okay? So a baked sweet potato is kind of heavy and grounding. Totally different from popcorn. Okay? Pitta is the second type. So Vata's qualities are earthy and watery. Pitta is hot and fiery. So you probably know someone whose personality is hot and fiery, or someone who's like gets all flushed and hot. And then a hot food, right? Simple. Jalapeno is hot, or oily is also. Why? Because oily would contribute to fire. So hot. Next is the Vata that I talked about. A tree in winter is kind of airy and crackly and dry. Right. So we have these 3 types. And so the type that's anxious is the ungrounded, the sort of creative, but it needs stabilization. And how would you do that? You would do that with its opposite. So you wouldn't feed someone who's anxious and all riled up and nervous and got the qualities of air. You wouldn't feed them like celery and popcorn. You'd feed them something more nurturing and grounding. Baked root vegetables, cooked, warm, nourishing soups and stews. Things to help you, like comfort foods. And I don't mean like chips from a bag. I mean like grandma's, whatever grandma fed you that just felt like, I feel safe. Because when we're anxious, do we feel safe? No. Now, the funny thing is, like, a lot of us do this instinctively. We eat to ground. I was a big, I did that. Okay. I know what that's like. I don't do that anymore, which is so freeing. But the foods, when I'm feeling ungrounded, like I've been on airplanes and I have noisy kids around and like, whoa, there's a lot going on. Going back to that baked sweet potato or some nice, like fatty Indian food for lunch is amazing because it's got that grounding element. It's balancing out the mobility of air. So Ayurveda is a fun thing. Again, if you don't make it to, like, this is the rule, and I've got to follow the rules. But after I went to Ayurveda school, I could see the huge value in it, in, like, all that they were talking about, but I was like, rules, goodbye. Instead of recognizing, you just follow also intuitively what's useful and discard the rest. Because it's like guidelines, not rules. So maybe one of the things to let go of is, I'm just not going to buy chips anymore, right? Like that's an easy thing to do. I'm trying to ground through eating chips. I'm not going to do that. And that's another reason why people go to sweet foods, because they're grounding and they feel, in a sense, even with their empty calories, the sugar calories, they feel nourishing. They feel that way. But we have to look at, is that really nourishing my body and my brain? Like that. So now as we look at what to add, it's like, what kind of things, like if I'm getting rid of something, a lot of times it's nice to add something, not necessarily to take its place, but maybe sort of, and so you don't feel like deprived. I've been spending a lot of time on Facebook. Maybe every day I'll call a friend, reconnect with an old friend, and allow my intuition to guide me in who to reach out to. As if it's going to be someone who's anxious. Like, the other thing that's super cool on Facebook that you can do is you can unfollow someone without unfriending them. That means, or you can see fewer posts of theirs, still see their posts, but not see quite so many. So if you do have a person who continues to post negative, agitating stuff, I can still keep them as a friend without having to see all this craziness. Super useful. Because ultimately our life energy in this body is limited. We only have a certain number of hours on the planet. Like, it's a lot of hours. However, what we choose to do with them is either creative or destructive in the direction we would like to go or in the direction away from where we'd like to go. So we get to look at, perhaps even my pursuit of likes, right? I posted this. How many people clicked like on it? Even that, not really feeding the direction I want to go. So what can I add instead? What's really what I'd like to start to play with or create, or what's something I let go of that's therapeutic for me? Whether that's a breathing practice, like doing some slow yoga, or painting, or some artistic project, cleaning. What's a therapeutic practice for me that I could add to my life? I have a friend who loves to clean. She said, "Oh, Kathy, I've been cleaning my house so much because of this whole thing." Now, in some of the other recent shows, I talked about breathing practices you can add. Some really useful ones. The slowing down the breath, but also sort of offering your thoughts after your exhale, offering your thoughts back to life itself. The universe, God, if you wish, whatever it is for you. Very powerful practices. So I think that today's show is May 14th. I think that show is probably like May 1st-ish. Would that be April 29th, 30th, whatever? All right, 2020. So that one is worth checking out, packed with things you can add to create more peace of mind and inner connection. In the last part of the show, I'd really like to dive into this idea of changing our relationship with thought. Because, as I mentioned earlier, it's not the world. If a little dog running up causes me anxiety, it's not the dog. It's what's going on in me. And if Corona causes anxiety, it's not Corona. It's in me. So, and you could say, well, my brother has it, so I am anxious. Even that, right? Even the willingness to be calm within that, right? There's the capacity to be calm within that. So we're going to head to break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about that. Again, I always love to hear your comments at meetkathywilliams.com, and we have an upcoming class on anxiety-free finances, a big one for a lot of people right now. I look forward to seeing you soon.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and today we are talking about, or I'm talking about, you're listening to, how to stay calm amid the anxiety. And, you know, anxiety is kind of like wind. Right? You are like the blue sky. You'll be here before the anxiety. You'll be here after the anxiety, and the anxiety, can only be present for you to observe with the space of the sky. Interesting, isn't it? I think so often we're swimming in thought and with thought that we don't necessarily think about thought other than to say, oh, well, this is positive, or this is negative, and I should be thinking more positively, which is a judgment, right? Then we get a cascade of self-judgment. I should not judge myself so much. I should think more positively, blah, blah. Instead of saying like, whenever I'm doing either of those things, like judging my thoughts or thinking, oh, that's so negative or whatever, I'm actually judging myself. And I'm thinking it should be different. I'm giving it a lot of significance. And when we give significance to thought, it makes it seem more real. It makes it heavier, even in our body with emotion. So one of the first things we can start to look at is like, okay, using the analogy of the sky, right? The sky is unaffected by thought, right? The sky is unaffected by the clouds or the wind. And everything passes through the sky. And you could just be like, oh, there's a thought. Not having to label it as negative. Just like, oh yeah, there's that. I can see. I'm really nervous about this. And I can hear some of you saying, well, Kathy, my situation really is a big deal. Okay. Yeah. And even that is made of thought. Okay. Now you, in your wisdom, the you that's connected to all that there is, have access to deep levels of wisdom that you just don't see when you're caught up in the winds of thought. It's kind of like an ocean. If we're looking at the surface waves, we're not aware that deep down within the ocean, it's actually really calm. And that you're just one thought away from that calm space. As soon as you let go of whatever you're thinking, just the second, in a moment, could be a long moment, it could be a brief one, another thought will arise. And it could be an idea that you love. Like when we think we're at the end of what's possible, that too is only a thought. If we can ask a question, I wonder what else is available here. universe, I'm open to that. Right? Questions open to possibility. They're the curious mind. They're the open mind. I remember Stephen Bowman, he's an author of several books. He said a problem is only a possibility with a judgment attached. The nature of thought is that it's temporary. It can't entrap us. We can think that it can. But thought is transitory. It's always changing. Now, you may have habits in a particular direction, right? Habits of thinking in a certain direction. And as you start to examine them, and you know, one of my teachers, my coaching teachers, was Michael Neal. And I love the analogy he gives because he says thought is like Play-Doh. Thought is like Play-Doh of the universe, and we're making things up constantly, and it's always malleable. And if you don't like what's showing up through and via your thought, all you have to look at and say, you know, it's made up. It's even made up that I'm supposed to be anxious about this thing. People in the concentration camps when Viktor Frankl there were supposed to be terrified or angry or whatever it was. And he wasn't. In gratitude, you can't be doing, when you're in gratitude, you can't be judging simultaneously. And I'll give you this example of that. So let's focus on our fingernails, all right? Or a part of your body you judge, but kind of minorly, right? Like fingernails are a good option. We all know that those aren't us, right? Because we can chop them off. So focus on your fingernails and find something about them to judge, all right? Maybe if you love your fingernails, choose something else, right? A mole or something, okay? Now judge that. Now shift and have gratitude for that. Right? So you're judging it first, and then you're shifting, and you're having gratitude. Now, can you do the two things simultaneously where you're like judging and grateful? Like a mind bender, like, I'm trying, but no, it flips back and forth really quick, but not really. Yeah. So what can you find to be grateful for? And how can you expand that? Where are we putting our energy? It's all made up, so you may as well put it in a fun direction. I'm looking at the ocean right now, and there are these trees hanging and not blocking my view. But in 2 months, if we don't change it, they probably will block my view a little bit. And I could bemoan the fact, oh, these trees grow so fast, blah, blah, blah. Or I can be super grateful. Wow, I live in a green place, and it's got shade, and I kind of like the shapes of those leaves. They're kind of waxy looking and interesting. I like it, you know? And they're waving in the wind. Or I could find things to curse about it. Well, the same is true of any situation. And if you can't find the gift in it yet, then ask. And you may not find the gift instantly, but you may. Right? I'd really like to see the gift in it. I'd like to receive the gift from it. I taught a class last year, I think, called 5 Days of Energetic Exercises for Receiving. And if you haven't taken that class, you should take it. It's amazing. People liked it so much that they asked for, several extra days, and we did more days of it. And one of the tools that we did in 5 Days of Energetic Exercises for Receiving is super simple, and it's just like for everything. And maybe we'll do this for a couple minutes. For everything. Yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. So even that anxious part of you, the part that really wants to be in control, the part that wants to know what's going to happen next, the part that feels vulnerable and maybe confused, right? Even that, yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. In your self-judgment, yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. Everything, yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. Whatever thoughts arise, yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. And as you do that more and more, maybe you notice already, you begin to develop this powerful space of openness, receptivity, and there's a loving generosity that results. So check that out, 5 Days of Energetic Exercises for Receiving in the shop at meetkathywilliams.com. And y'all, for listening, get 20% off by using the code S like sexy, M like mom, radio, S radio, and you at meetkathywilliams.com. And, you know, as I was leading that, I just got a video testimonial this morning from a woman who took my Ho'oponopono class. And Ho'oponopono is a process of self-forgiveness. And she said, Kathy, I've done transformational tools, I've done access consciousness, I've done a lot of things. And I was still stuck with this kind of level of self-criticism that I would even judge myself for that, right? Because it's still here, and why is it still here? It shouldn't be here. And she said, doing the Ho'oponopono class with you changed it, because I embraced a level of self-loving that I never had before. So I invite you to join me. You can purchase the class again. You get the 20% code SM Radio on the site. Previous class, and then I'm having a live class coming up on May 26th, and they're just so fun and so powerful. And you get several different approaches to Ho'oponopono, so you can explore and see which is a fit for you. And like Judita, who sent me the video, that practice really impacted my life in beautiful ways as well. So I'd love to have you there. So let's just go back over, recap. What can you let go of? Maybe some things come to mind right now. maybe over the course of your week, of your life, you'll identify, oh yeah, that part's not working for me. Let me change it. And then what can you add? What is working for you? How could you enhance that, expand that? And what else could you add? Whether that's meditation, exercise, nourishing foods, relationships, journaling, some of the practices I've listed on the other recent shows. Like, what can I add? Even the gratitude practices. Yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. And then just the recognition that you don't have to think positively. You just have to realize your thought's made up, and that after your negative thought, a new thought will arise too. And you don't have to buy that as real either. So thanks so much for listening. I hope you found something that you find really useful, and see you next week. If you can't wait that long, I'm also on Spotify, YouTube, IOM.FM, iHeartRadio, where else? iTunes Radio, all the places, Google Play. All right. See you soon. And hey, check out my anxiety-free finances class on Sunday. Pay what you wish, so no reason not to join.